Greetings and salutations. I am Dr. Marshall Rush. This is Move Forward Lions Spiritual Center, and I'd like to have another conversation with you. Today, I want to talk a little bit about relationships. I was sitting with a group of women at a birthday party. We got into somewhat of a pretty steep and deep conversation. They shot at me some questions about relationships. My spouse and I, as y'all can see, that's when we were a little bit younger. But we will be going on 20 years of marriage, and we thank God for that. We've had some highs and some lows, had some good times, some difficult times. But most of all, God has carried our marriage, and we're both blessed by that. So when it comes to any level of relationship, it takes work. I want that understood off the bat. A lot of people think that, when they're in love with somebody and then you get married, that, you're just going to ride off into the sunset and life is going to be wonderful. It comes with challenges. It comes with some serious challenges. Whenever you talk about two becoming one flesh, so what does that look like, the Reverend? Two becoming one flesh is a process through which we have to understand that God, He adores marriage. And the reason why is because God is married to the church and to His people in how anyone worships Him. I'm not knocking any other religious belief system, how anyone worships Him, because it's all created around love, all of it. I don't care who you are, what religious belief you are, how you decide to get to God, how you move. I have my way of doing things and other people have their way of doing things, and it's all created in the form of love. And that's what God wants our relationships to be about. Loving one another through the difficult times, through the good times, being a blessing to one another, pouring into one another's lives, taking care of one another. That's what God wants it to be all about. What we as human beings have to understand is that life is life. And with life comes hardships, good times, bad times, struggle, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, you have to get back to love. You got to get back to love, no matter how you look at it. So when I was talking with these lovely ladies, one of the questions that was presented to me was, why are men so insecure? I can only speak from my area of living in life. I don't know what it is for everybody, but I can speak from my area. As I identify it, because I was an insecure man at one time or another in my life. And to me, there's nothing worse than an insecure man, because we are controlling. We want to run everything. We want to be able to do our own thing and still have someone there that we can kind of call our own. And when you're dealing with a man that has an insecurity in any area of his life, it's going to expose itself as you are, as a woman, you're in a relationship with him. Time will show you who a person is. That's why I want to share that long engagements to me are healthy. Long engagements, uh, even in a friendship, getting to know a person, you just don't pour all your business out in the beginning of the friendship. You know, there's some things that are meant within the first year to be said. There are some things that are meant in the fifth year to be said. There are some things that are meant in the 10th year to be said. Just because you embrace someone as your friend doesn't mean you pour out everything that's going on in your life or that you're about or into one conversation in one night. Relationships, we're groomed in relationships as children. So a lot of my insecurity came in my identity crisis. And my identity crisis was being raised by women. I was raised by my mom and my aunts. And unfortunately, my natural father was not able to be there for me. And my stepfather and my mother were only together for a short period of time when I was young. And as my mom raised me in church, the pastor was the only male figure, but he had 13 kids of his own that he had to take care of. So I was in an identity crisis because I didn't know what it was to be a man. Just didn't. I didn't know what it was to be a man. Um, I realized and recognized I was lazy because I didn't like to go to work, but I never saw a man get up and go to work. I didn't know how to relate to women. I was an introvert because I was teased a lot as a kid. Uh, I had, certain issues that I grew up with uh, because I didn't understand some of the things that I had gone through, as a child. So I was in a major identity crisis. I didn't know what it was. So when I became a man, I literally became a husband. I was a young husband at the age of 22. That I didn't know what it was to be a husband. I didn't know. I didn't know when uh, my ex-wife gave birth to our kids. I didn't know what it was to be a father. I mean, I screwed all that up. I was horrible. So when when it when it comes to relationships and insecure men, it's a part of the upbringing, how you were raised. If a man does not take time to look at his upbringing, if he doesn't take time to evaluate how he was raised and then begin to identify, this is where I'm falling short. This is where I struggle. This is my hardship. A lot of my young brothers out there today are in an identity crisis because many, especially in the African American community, have not been raised by fathers. We ain't been raised by uncles. We ain't been raised by grandfathers. Um, Big brothers and big sisters have tried to help and work, but often too many times when you're raised in the hood, all you have is your little partners, your little buddies, or whatever the case may be, and they don't have fathers either. And so we got yelling mothers that yell and scream and are always emotional. And that's what they're raising, men that are yelling and screaming and always emotional. And that's what I was, always an emotional tyrant, angry all the time, mad all the time, frustrated all the time, because I didn't know what it was to be a man. It took me to get into my 40s to begin to identify that I had an issue in my life. And I was doing some great things with my life. I mean, coming from the hood and coming from the ghetto and, you know, uh, giving the government a piece of time of my life, I have turned things around in a pretty good way. but it took so long, and it doesn't have to take that long. That's why any type of influence that comes into our lives as young men, and that's 18 to 24, we just jump on it. So whether it's a gang, whether it's selling drugs, whether it's whatever it is, if we're not in a sport, or we're not part of a debate team, or something that really intrigues us or interests us, we're going to go to something negative because they will embrace us. And I thank God that my outlet was sports. So an insecure man is hard to deal with for women, and really any type of relationship. An insecure man doesn't know who he is. An insecure man can be, narcissistic. An insecure man can be troubling. An insecure man is always going to want attention. An insecure man is always going to fight for what he believes is his. An insecure man cannot handle a breakup. An insecure man really can't handle being in love. An insecure man does not do well in relationships where there's competition. He's not going to do well. And an insecure man is always going to look down on himself, no matter how people try to uplift him. But you have to get help. You have to be able to identify where you are as an insecure man. Insecurity is a horrible place to be. It's just a horrible place to be. And when you are in an insecure place within yourself, some of that is not your fault. Some of that is your fault. Either way, women or any type of relationship that people get in with insecure men is going to hurt the relationship, because insecure men do not know how to take good care of a healthy relationship in any capacity. As God came into my life, and I began to work on some of these insecure issues that I had, the reality that I could get better was huge in my life. So once again, family, I went and got some counseling. I went and got some help, and I began to put in the work. And once again, I can't put emphasis on this. When it comes to us men, you got to put in the work. You just ain't going to walk around and get better. You got to put in the work. You got to make application. You got to read books. You got to, the things that are shared with you to do, you got to do them. You got to practice them. And a lot of it is mind and brain work, mind work. Changing your thoughts, changing how you feel about yourself, changing your esteem issues, changing who you are in your own eyes. Because if you can't do that, then you're going to continue to be a nightmare in relationships, period. I don't care if it's a friendship, marriage, engagement. I don't care what type of relationship it is. Because an insecure man will kill a relationship quick as he builds one. And it's a shame, but that's the godly truth. I hope and pray that this conversation was somewhat helpful. I'll deal, get more in depth with more, application work. But I just wanted to put this out there so that, when I come across some of my young brothers and, I shoot them this information, that this can be a help to them. because I'm telling you, there's nothing worse than a woman dealing with an insecure man. I'm Dr. Marshall Rush. God bless you. This is Move for Alliance Spiritual Center, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation.